Welcome to English Grammar at Lucent Institute. Today's class we will study prepositions, conjunctions, and interjections. All three forms and parts of speech that affect our grammar. Let's look at our Grammarians guide. This is a guide to guide you through what we're going to learn today: the preposition, the conjunction, and the interjection. A preposition is a word used to show the relation of a noun or pronoun to some other word in the sentence. Have you ever wondered how to connect those words? Or maybe you're reading some fantastic essay and you understand that there is this thought up here, and somehow the writer connects it to a word down here in the same sentence. Well, those kinds of words are prepositions. It shows relationship. It connects words together, makes the full meaning of a sentence. And so a preposition is a word used to show the relationship of a noun or a pronoun to other words in the sentence. There are several types of prepositions: simple compound, phrasal prepositions, participial prepositions, prepositional phrases, prepositional issues, and limiting prepositional phrases. These are the types of prepositions that we're going to study over the next few minutes. Simple compound prepositions. A simple preposition consists of a single monosyllabic word such as, at, or by. These are simple little two-letter words that connect words together to create a simple preposition that gather relationship. They show meaning from one word to another word and show how they're connected. A compound preposition has two or more syllables. It may be made up of two or more words, such as into, outside, and upon. Now, here's really funny, fascinating. You're looking at it and you're going, well, those are just one word each. Actually, they're not. Into has this, in, which is like to step inside a door or to walk into a building. Well, in is the opposite of out, but here we go. But there's a second word here, to. To also develops an understanding of, this is a letter to my mom. Well, how is it connected? To. To is a connection. It builds a relationship. But now here, when we compound the word in, to, you see that two words become one word, and therefore you have into. Into is two words that become one word. So it's made up of two or more words, but they become one word to create a preposition that tells me that get into the house. Well, the relationship is, I just gave an imperative command, an imperative command to somebody, get into the house, saying you need to go into that house. So into being the preposition of talking about a undisclosed object going into the house. Simple prepositions are as, at, by, down, for, from, in, like, or of. And they continue with off, on, plus, since, through, to, toward, up, and with. You'll see that we use these words all the time when we're speaking. When we're speaking with someone, or we're talking about what's on top of that bookshelf, or what we have to get through in order to graduate with a degree. We use these words all the time in language, both spoken and written language. So these simple prepositions, though they are small in letters, they create further meaning, further connection between the subject and the object, between the subject and a predicate, between nouns and verbs. They create all the filling of the gaps. They fill in the gaps so that you have full, complete, fluid sentences that create full, complete, fluid paragraphs, which then become fluid and complete compositions. So there's all this movement in language, in English grammar, and you cannot have an effective sentence without the use of prepositions. Admittedly, we're going to talk a little bit later about using prepositions in smart and effective ways. But hang with me for just a moment as we consider and discuss compound prepositions. Compound prepositions are made up of two words or more. So in each one of these sentences, or each one of these examples, you're going to see two words like about, or above, or across. So about is actually made up of two words, the letter A, and then bout. You can say that that about, that person had a bout of pneumonia. Well, about is like around, like a season of pneumonia. So in that particular example, that person had a bout of pneumonia. So about is two words. So you just add the A and it becomes about. A-B-O-U-T. About. And so forth with all these other words, across and after and against and alongside. Alongside is actually three words. See, look. A, and then long, and then side. Three words. All tucked together creates alongside. So when you're going through tough times and your friend comes alongside you, it means to come right next to you and walk with you and through the issue. Now, this could be a tangible, actual walk. You've seen marathons where one of the runners gets injured and a parent or a coach comes up and runs alongside their competitor. But it can also be an abstract or an intangible concept of my friend came up alongside me and joined me in prayer. So alongside means that he joined with me in prayer over an issue. So it can be both tangible or intangible, both a literal expression of the coach comes up beside me and runs, or my friend came up alongside me and prayed with me. So join me in prayer. So you can see how they both connect. And so prepositions give further meaning and relationship in sentences to each other. Same thing goes with between and despite and except. Well, all people are welcome in heaven, except, there's that word, except those who have not received Christ. Oh, well, that's a huge preposition, because all people are allowed in heaven, and in this particular sense, except those who have not received Christ. They will not be allowed into the kingdom. Jesus tells us that I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no man comes unto the Father except by me. John 14:6. So that word except creates a preposition of all can come if they believe in Jesus, that he is the way, the truth, and the life. But there's no exception to salvation except through Christ. And you will never meet God the Father, the creator of all things, apart from faith and trust in Jesus Christ. That is the exception. Well, so compound prepositions create meaning and relationship based on multiple syllables and multiple words. Phrasal prepositions, often called a complex preposition, is two or more separate words used as a prepositional unit. Okay, so where compound prepositions were two words that formed one word, multiple syllables, like into and about and above and except, two words put together that created one preposition. Here in phrasal prepositions, we think phrase, think more than one word that creates meaning. So an example of this is if about. If about is an example. It will replace with regard to or in connection with. So if about will replace with regard to or in connection with. And it's important to understand that if about is simple. It's a phrase, but it brings clarity. It brings clarity to the sentence. So phrasal prepositions such as according to, alongside of, along with, apart from, as against, as between, as compared with, as distinct from, all of these phrasal prepositions create meaning between words, and they assist the verb most often with meaning. So the prepositions, this creates further filling of the gap. For instance, or as far as I can see. You see, phrasal prepositions are used all the time. We just do it naturally in English. And so you see that there's this, the gaps are being filled in our language, and people understand that these prepositions, everything that came before and everything that follows with the preposition connects. It also points subjects to verbs and verbs to subjects and fills in the gaps between the object and so forth. Other phrasal prepositions at the point of, at the risk of, because of, by contrast with, or by means of, or by reason of, or by way of. All of these are different examples that you see in written language, but they're made up of multiple words. They have meaning, but the meaning comes from multiple words that then fill in the gaps in a sentence. They give further meaning that put relationships together. And there are a lot of them in terms of, in the case of phrasal prepositions, you should look to your professor who has a long list of phrasal prepositions. The use of prepositions. Prepositions show relationship between words. An example is Peter healed the man on the mat in Jesus' name. Peter being the noun, Peter being the noun of the sentence. Healed, which is the verb. See, here we go, we're diagramming. The man. Oh, look at that, an article. A-R-T. And not only that, but it's a definite article. So you could put a little D there. A definite article. Man being the subject, or being the object, the object. And on being your predicate, or preposition. So you see, there's all this meaning that you just picked up from simply learning your parts of speech. So Peter healed the man on the mat. On the mat is, I said this wrong. That is not object. That is the subject. And this is the object. Subject and object. They are connected by the preposition. The preposition shows relationship between words. Peter healed the man. This is the first part. On the mat. The mat in Jesus' name. So this is connected to this because of this. On. A participial preposition is a participle form that functions as a preposition. These participial prepositions are sometimes called subordinating conjunctions. Subordinating meaning that they obey the conjunction, that they fall in line. Some example words are assuming, barring, concerning, considering, during, notwithstanding, owing to, provided, regarding, respecting, and speaking of. Now, something you're going to notice about participial prepositions is the ing. ing. This is a suffix. We talked about prepositions and suffixes last class, but ed is also one. These are all suffixes of words, and they change the meaning. They change the meaning of words completely. Because look, assuming is assume. A-S-S-U-M-E. That's the word. That's the root of this word. Assume is assuming. But in order to change its meaning, then you simply drop the E and you add the ing. And the same thing goes with concern and consider and during, the duration or during, all of these have a provide, regarding, respecting, respect. They simply take off the ing, speak, regard, provide. Oh, well, that would just be the D. O, and you would add the E here. Notwithstanding, well, you would need to break this apart, but consider, concerning, barring, and then assume. So you see each one of those words, if you remove the suffix, becomes the root of the participial preposition, becomes a part of a noun, of a verb, becomes a verb to assume, concern yourself, consider. Those are all actions. Provide, regarding, respect, speaking or speak. All of those are actions. They become verbs, but you add ing to them, and all of a sudden it becomes a participial preposition. Prepositional phrases. A preposition appears at the beginning of a phrase. The noun or pronoun at the end of a prepositional phrase is the object of the preposition that begins the phrase. I am on my way to your house. Well, when we text, sometimes when we're texting on our telephones, on our cell phones, we just go on the way. Well, that is an example of a prepositional phrase. Or from Paul and me. Or with a shout. Paul and me are the objects of from and. On thee is a prepositional phrase, with a. Jesus will come with a shout. With a shout. With a is the prepositional phrase, and shout is the object of that example, of that phrase. So it begins with a and then shout. Shout is the object of the prepositional phrase. Paul and me and way. Some prepositional issues. Now, with all major writing, writers tend to fall into a considerable overuse of words. When you write, you need to learn to use adjectives and adverbs and verbs and all the different parts of speech, and to learn to express yourself in written language, especially in English, with a plethora of all of them, with a large vocabulary. It's very fun to be able to use words like plethora, which is, it means many. It means wide and various and variety. Plethora just means huge, but that is a huge verb, because it describes, an adverb. It is a word that describes the language in which you can use both in oral and in written forms. However, oftentimes novices and beginners will try to write the way they speak, which isn't always a bad thing, except when there are prepositional issues. Like is probably the least widely understood preposition. Its traditional function is adjectival, not adverbial, meaning like really applies to nouns and pronouns and noun phrases. However, people often try to use it as an adverbial, meaning that they try to use it in connection with verbs and adverbs, and it doesn't work like that because like is not adverbial. It is adjectival. An example of this is Christ's followers often see themselves as spiritually mature, like Paul. Well, this is its traditional function so that it governs nouns and noun phrases. Okay? So, who often sees themselves as spiritually mature? Christ's followers. And who do we consider spiritually mature? Paul. So, in this particular case, we're using like Paul as it governs the noun. It says, everything above in this sentence helps us to understand that Christ's followers often see themselves as spiritually mature, like Paul, like the Apostle Paul. As a preposition, like is followed by a noun or by a pronoun. In the objective case, the person in that old portrait looks like me. It's a noun. Paul and me are both nouns and pronouns. They are both personal. Paul being a proper noun, me being a first person pronoun, personal pronoun, me. I and me. Speaking about me. What the person in that old in is the preposition, is a preposition. That being an adjective. Old portrait being the object. Looks like me. Looks being a verb. It's an action. Looks like me being a prepositional issue. Here, in this particular case, it is a preposition, like. Like is being used as a preposition because it's connecting everything before to me. Limiting prepositional phrases. Avoiding overuse. Replacing with adverbs. Cutting prepositional phrase. Replacing with genitives, meaning replacing with possessive forms of language. Cutting unnecessary prepositions and using active voice. Each one of these 6 examples, these 3 and these 3 right here, each one of these will help you to limit prepositional phrases. Extremely important. And we want to learn to limit prepositional phrases not because they're bad, but because when you limit prepositional phrases, you begin to write stronger, more effective, more clear sentences and paragraphs and essays and compositions and sermons. And especially when you learn to use active voice. Passive voice is weak. It takes all the strength out of your argument, out of your sentences. But when you start using active voice, which we'll see in just a moment, you then have the subject doing something powerfully in active voice, and it changes the feel of your writing from something that's passively happening to something that is active and poignant and meaningful. So overuse and replacing adverbs or replacing with adverbs and cutting prepositional phrases and all this wordiness. Prepositions tend to be very wordy, and so you can see from prepositional phrases that according to, and as far as I can see, as far as being a prepositional phrase, that when you start using that in conjunction with writing, it just starts to clutter the page. It starts cluttering up your writing. Yes, it's saying something, but it's using a whole lot of words to do, when you can learn how to write concisely and how to write with deep meaning with fewer words. So here's where we're headed. Limiting prepositional phrases. Now, just a moment ago, we used the word replacing with genitives on number 4 right here. And genitives is just a really fancy technical term that I'm going to define. A genitive may replace a prepositional phrase, especially an of. The use of is easily going to replace of right there. There is your prepositional phrase. An example. I was dismayed by the complexity of the street map. Okay? That is the first right there. That's the first example. Now look at it. Look at how this works. I was dismayed by the complexity of the street map. That's very wordy by comparison to the second example, which begins right there. Let's look at this. This is the remake. The street map's complexity dismayed me. See, instead of all this extra, I was dismayed by the complexity of the street map, the remake of the sentence puts the street map up front. The street map's complexity dismayed me. By the way, the apostrophe S right here, this apostrophe S, when added to a word, creates ownership. It shows possession. So the street map's complexity. Well, the complexity is reflected in the street maps, in the maps. So the map has ownership to complexity. It is a complex map, meaning it's difficult. And therefore, because of its difficulty, it's dismayed the subject or the pronoun me. So by changing up words and removing prepositional phrases and genitives, such as of, you were able to remove a lot of words. So let's see. Let's look at how many words we took out. We took out I was, by the, those are all of. Okay, so look. So really, we kept the article. We kept the object, and we talked about the verb, about the adjective. I'm sorry, that's an adjective. I'm sorry. My apologies. Yeah. That's an adjective. That's a verb. And that is a personal pronoun. So pronoun. Okay, so you see. So see, by concising the words, by cutting out some of these words, you make a stronger sentence by cutting out prepositional phrases. Active voice. Changing from the long passive voice with by after the verb to an active voice construction always eliminates a preposition. For example, the ship was sailed by, there it is, by an experienced crew. The ship was sailed by an experienced crew. Saying the exact same thing. Saying the exact same thing. An experienced crew sailed the ship. See how that changes? You're taking away the verb from the back side of the sentence, bringing it forward. So what is it? An experienced crew. An experienced crew. What is the crew? The crew is the subject, obviously, that is sailing. This is your verb. Experienced becomes your adjective. Sorry, your adjective right there. Talking about the crew, they're not just a crew, but they're an experienced crew. And you bring that to the front, and what are they doing? They're sailing the ship. An experienced crew sailed the ship. A stronger, shorter, more poignant sentence right there. Rather than the ship was sailed by an experienced crew. That's a much longer sentence than it needs to be. Both sentences say the same thing. One is doing so in active voice, bringing more attention. A stronger, tighter sentence creates a more enjoyable read on paper. And understand that it takes practice to develop a pattern of writing in active voice. It's something that all writers struggle with, and all writers need to work to perfect. I still deal sometimes with writing passively, not even realizing that I'm doing so, because so often we speak with a lot of words. We use long passive sentences when we speak, oftentimes without even considering it. But sometimes when you take a moment and you write something down, and then you realize, and then you take a look at it after you've written it, and then you take one look at it, and then you start editing your own self, you will find that you write sometimes in a lot of long passive voice. And most of it deals with the use of by. When you use the word by, then you can certainly see that taking that word out eliminates a lot of the passivity of your writing and turns it into active voice, because an experienced crew sailed the ship. Instead of the ship doing something, and the people that are actually doing the work being at the end, move the people that are doing the work up front and let the people that are doing the work have the movement of sailing the ship. The conjunction is a word that joins words or groups of words. This is really simple. Very, very simple. There are only a few conjunctions in the English language, in English grammar. And so a conjunction is a word that just completes and continues on. In fact, right here in this sentence, we have a conjunction, the conjunction of or. Or is connecting. A conjunction is a word that joins words or groups of words. So right there, a conjunction is used to join two parts of a sentence together to show meaning, to create a flow in your words. And so here's an example. Jesus washed his disciples' feet and served the Lord's Supper. Now, if you remember this story in the Bible, you will remember that the night before the Lord was to be crucified, he gathered his disciples in the upper room, and there he took his cloak off and wrapped it around his waist, and he poured water into a basin, and he washed his disciples' feet. One by one, he washed all their feet as they reclined at the table. And then, after the Passover meal, he picks up the fourth cup, the cup of redemption at the Lord's Supper, and he prays, and he breaks the bread, and he passes the cup around, the cup of the new covenant. All these things happened, but in this sentence, you will see how I combined both the washing of the disciples' feet and the Lord's Supper in this sentence. So Jesus washed his disciples' feet and served the Lord's Supper. Now look at this. Let's do subject and predicate real quick. So, just so you don't forget, subject is here, Jesus. And everything else. This is predicate. Pretty simple. So you have the subject, who is Jesus, and what is he doing? He washed his disciples' feet and served the Lord's Supper. That's subject predicate. This is the simplest, easiest diagram. Now as we start to look beyond this, now you're going to notice that Jesus, who is the noun, it's a proper noun, PN, proper noun. Verb, washed. Personal pronoun. Disciples. But really and truly, look, disciples is the object. This is who is receiving the washing and being served. And so here it is, the disciples' feet are being served. Jesus is washing and serving, all of which points back to the disciples, the object of the sentence. So you see that there is all of this meaning being packed into the sentence. And they're connected by the conjunction and. The three conjunctions that are most commonly used are and, comma, but, comma, and or. These are the most common conjunctions, or. And, but, and or are the most common. The coordinating conjunctions are and, but, or, nor, for, so, and yet. Correlative conjunctions, such as either and or, not only and but also, neither nor, whether or, both and. Okay, these particular combinations are always used in pairs. Always. There is no exception to the rule. They are always together. So you can't, even hearing it right now, both and, always sound natural. Either or. He is not only president, but also a good friend. Carlos is not only president of Lucent Institute, but also a dear friend. You see how that works? The correlative conjunctions, not only and but also, are always used together. They are used interchangeably, but they're always used in pairs. And so it's very helpful for you to take note to this. Take note. Make sure you think about this. Consider how these are used. When you're reading in English, look for these. Look for these words to be used and see how they are used in other people's writings. Because what you're going to find is that both and not only but also and whether and or, all of these conjunctions are always used in these patterns together. Neither nor. Okay? So the speech was neither eloquent nor convincing. See? These correlating conjunctions, neither and nor, are used together. These are a list of words that give us further examples of words that are conjugating. They can connect meaning. They're conjunctions that help connect other things. Until, because, before, provided, through, that, them. You see, these are words that are used in other places that I've explained that and then and it all have other parts of speech. They can be used as other parts of speech, but here they can also be used as conjunctions. Subordinating conjunctions are used to begin subordinate clauses, usually adverb clauses. Following Jesus is even better than we had anticipated. See, there's your verb. There's your noun, following Jesus. Here you go. Following Jesus is even better than we had anticipated. Than being a subordinating conjunction. A subordinating conjunction does not always come between the sentence parts that it joins. It may come at the beginning of a sentence as well. If the price is right, I will buy the Bible. Really? So if the price is right. If and the being the subordinating conjunction. If the price is right, I will buy the Bible. What is the point? If the price of something is right, then I will buy the Bible. See, it's joining, but it starts at the beginning of the sentence. It's starting right here. It's right here, and it's talking about the price being right, and if it is, then there will be a purchase. A purchase, which will then be the purchase of a Bible. So, a subordinating conjunction does not always come between the sentence parts that it joins. The interjection. An interjection is a word that expresses emotion and has no grammatical relation to other words in the sentence. We use interjections all the time when we're texting. Some of the funniest ones are like LOL. LOL. In English, that acronym stands for laugh out loud, which is so funny when you're texting. You see this, or oh, or my goodness, or ouch, or ah, like I got it. These are examples like the light bulb going on, a light bulb. And so you have this little light bulb and it has little things and bing, 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 bing. I mean, light bulb. When you use these words, it may not have anything to do with with what the next sentence is. It may be a response to what was just said to you. That man just had an accident in his car. Oh my goodness. Well, yes, those are an example of interjections. They're words that, and then you'll follow on, well, is he okay? And, well, is he okay? The question mark is different from oh my goodness. Oh my goodness is an example of an interjection. It's an expression in written language of excitement. It's an emotion that is written down. It's written down on paper. So you understand that interjections really are used in fiction writing. If you've read any parts of the Chronicles of Narnia in English, or C.S. Lewis, you will find that these fictional characters have emotions and they speak like this. Well, they use interjections with fictional writing. Now, interjections are not usually used in academic writing unless they are used from a quote of somebody else saying it and it has a pertinence to what you're writing. The same word as different parts of speech. Many words in English may be used as more than one part of speech. For example, these may be an adjective, these books, or a pronoun, I want these. Tuesday may be a noun. Tuesday is my birthday. Not really, but for the example, Tuesday is my birthday. Or an adverb. Come this Tuesday, we're going to have class. You see how that works? So it can be a noun, which Tuesday is my birthday. Okay, well, that's a day. Or come Tuesday, which is talking about an adverb. It's lending itself to come. So to describe a specific time or when or where or how, or giving definition to. Thousands of words like these can be classified as parts of speech only when you see them in sentences, meaning that you will not understand all the different parts of speech when you're speaking. Really, there's no way I can give you all those examples, but I can tell you that as you learn your basic parts of speech, which we've now discussed the basics, then you can begin to recognize the different ways that they are being used as you are reading and writing and writing and reading, and this just continues to build your vocabulary in English grammar. Next class, we will discuss the complements in English grammar. Well, I thank you so much for joining me for this class, and I have enjoyed instructing you. I look forward to seeing you again. God bless and have a great day.